Before this episode of Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels, I just want to let you know if you want to support the pod, then rate and review it on iTunes and share it with your friends. Or if you really, really like it, go to patreon.com/delphinpod, DELFINPOD, where you can spend $1 and access a ton of shows having to do with movies, some fun game shows, some episodes that are exclusive to Patreon, and then a preview of everything else coming next.
Their story didn't end there.
How could there have been only one?
And he's back in business.
Is the worst idea in history of bad ideas.
Part 2 is the final chapter in the violent history.
This time, it's personal.
Now.
Yeah, this is Revenge of the Sequel, the podcast just about sequels, and this is a very special episode. Not only are we recording in the daytime.
Yeah, there's like sunlight out here, and there's no booze around, which is kind of weird.
We're like vampires. We don't know what the sunlight's like, but it's like a little bit afternoon, and we normally record late at night, sometimes into the next day, and most of the times into the next day. But we're not talking about a specific movie this episode. It's the beginning of June, so we're going to go down the list of the sequels coming out, what we're excited for, what we'll watch. Now, this doesn't mean we're going to do an episode about every single one of these sequels, but if you are planning your summer around these big, gigantic movies, well, we'll have a little bit of fun talking about them, and who knows, we'll probably do a couple of these for
definitely. I think we've done
pod.
Some...
We've already done quite a bit. Yeah.
So like Avengers, Endgame, and
Godzilla. That's new. My name's Emmanuel.
Hey, I'm John.
And so we're really excited. I will say that when we started this podcast, we figured there would always be sequels coming out, and I feel like the amount has really grown.
Yeah, definitely. I think we started it with the intention of almost just doing like, almost like cult classic sequels or something, because I think one of our first recordings was like Jaws 2.
And then we did a Romero zombie movie.
Day of the Dead, and stuff like that, and then it went off from there. I think so like I think we were always planning on doing like sequels and stuff. I think that year that we started, one of the biggest ones we did was like a Fast and Furious movie and Avengers, Age of Ultron, I think.
And I feel like maybe even just 2 decades ago, sequels weren't that made that often. We still had a lot of original movies, but if it was something that broke the stratosphere in terms of box office or reception, then they would. And then also there was a ton of genre movies that were getting sequels, including like horror, like slasher movies would always get sequels, all of the Saw stuff, and all of the Halloween and Scream. Like those were the things where they thought, well, we've got a cool formula, people like to get scared, we can keep redoing this.
Right, yeah.
But now it is just almost everything. We've seen even drama sequels and things like that.
It's the age of the franchise, basically. It's pretty cool. It's an era of a franchise.
Yeah.
You're right, because we did do like I think last year, 2 years ago maybe. I don't know when it was now. Could have been 2 years ago. We did Trainspotting too, which is like I was just talking about that at work the other day, because someone ended up watching it, and he was saying that like the first one kind of stands alone. It's very like you wouldn't have thought that that's going to be a franchise or something, or like it was franchised, and then a sequel comes out and it's pretty much its own thing.
Really good,
really awesome for what it is. He did say it was unnecessary, and I kind of agree with that. Like it is a unnecessary movie, but it the fact that we got it and it didn't suck and it was actually really, really good it's refreshing, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because we know most movies, once it ends, those characters still live on in that world.
Right, yeah.
But whether it's necessary to show it is an interesting idea, especially for dramas, because you're like, well, we get big action set pieces, and we now see sequels that their whole point is just to get bigger and grander and more expensive. But in dramas, it's kind of weird. Like, are you going to raise the stakes in the next one, or are you just going to try to explore new things with the same characters?
Exactly, and then it's an interesting look at it, because like, were you that attached to the stories of the original characters to come back for this? Like,
it's weird.
So, yeah,
it's a weird thing.
Kind of insane.
But anyways, it's the basis for this whole podcast, so not too weird. We really like it.
Yeah, exactly. Keep them coming, guys. Yeah. Don't stop.
So here we're gonna start in June, because you're listening to this June 10th, and the weird thing about talking about summer blockbusters is it really started in March. Like they start sooner and sooner. These big, gigantic blockbuster movies used to start after Memorial Day,
Right. Yeah.
but now they
sometimes they're as far back as like
Oh,
March
yeah.
or February,
And they
Black
still
Panther
count
was
it.
February like last year. It's kind of
Huge.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, you used to just have dramas and kind of independent movies, and maybe some horror movies play out kind of around October, but now it's almost year round. But the summer is still reserved for the biggest, because kids are not in school, because people could go to the movies at different times because I don't know, they're on vacation. Summer is still reserved for the bigger, grander, huge, big budget blockbuster movies. And I think Jaws was actually one of the first movies that did that. I think that's where the term blockbuster came out of. I think Jaws,
the
right?
first Jaws movie. Yeah, definitely.
So let's get started. So it's June 7th. So just the weekend that you're listening to this podcast, Dark Phoenix and the Secret Life of Pet have come out. Dark Phoenix,
Secret Life of Pets. Like singular.
Secret Life of One Pet. Pets Part 2, starring Harrison Ford, comes out. I love Secret Life of Pets, but I know we really want to talk about Dark Phoenix.
Did you really like the Secret Life of Pets?
It was funny. I mean, it's.
I've never seen it. That's why. Like I know my nieces and nephews love that movie.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's an actual, because I don't know what it is about the Illumination movies. I don't think I've ever seen
Despicable Me. You never saw?
I've never seen Despicable Me.
Wow.
I'm just thinking about it.
But how did you escape Despicable Me? That has been.
I think Despicable Me was
everywhere.
Well, because like I think when that first one came out, and the second one, I guess I was in college, so like I wasn't around. I wasn't around like kids at the time, I guess. So like it wasn't like I had no interest in going to watch it. Not because it didn't look bad, because every trailer looked really funny. It's just something that didn't strike me as something that I would go watch.
Yeah, it's Steve Carell as and they even made the Minions movie, which was just a standalone.
Yeah, like a little spin-off about that.
Here's the thing about Illumination. The Minions are the biggest thing to ever happen to them, because you see that shit everywhere, and now adults are making, I don't know, like adult version of Minion merchandise.
It's so weird. Yeah, Minions are they're
inescapable.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, they're inescapable. They're
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can't believe you escaped. I didn't watch any of these in the theaters, I don't think, but I did end up seeing them like as they were on cable.
Right.
And I was like, I'll just watch it, and I feel like I've seen all of them, to be honest with you. It's kind of crazy. Mm-hmm. But Secret Life of Pets has here's Illumination is kind of a more their movies still have like sometimes really deep stories, and like some of them deal with death, which is crazy. Like the first Secret Life of Pets there's a death in it. Not a spoiler, but there is a little bit more of playfulness in their movies, and they're just like cartoons. And I think this movie's going to be the same, part 2. But yeah, I mean, they're making. I think the Minions have made more money than Godzilla at this point. They're really popular.
Definitely, yeah.
But Dark Phoenix. Let's talk about Dark Phoenix. They had to reshoot the ending. It's kind of this crazy thing where it's the last of the
Fox X-Men,
basically. The
Foxmen, if you will.
But Disney's releasing this. Like they have the purview. They could not release it if they
Yeah,
want
I mean,
to.
they I guess if they didn't want to, they could have not. But yeah, I think the marketing has changed. I guess this went from like just being another installment of the X-Men franchise to this is the end of the X-Men franchise, or at least the X-Men franchise as you know it, like cinematically. Like no more Fassbender, no more McAvoy, stuff like that. It's been a hell of a run. I mean, this,
it's weird. I feel like this should be a bigger deal than it is.
Yes, definitely, and I think everyone does. I think like cast, crew, even fans included. I think people are just very sour on this X-Men in general because one, I mean, now that you have an Avengers, world where everyone kind of pops in and out, that's kind of like it's rendered, and also like the team up movies that Marvel, like the Marvel Studios has. Kind of trump the X-Men movies. X-Men movies at a point were all that you got, as superhero wise. So there was no other alternative. I feel like when it came to movies like that. Now you're in a post Endgame now world, and then of course Disney did buy Fox and all its creative assets. So now people are just kind of waiting for this to end so they can get to the next version of the official X-Men, I guess.
The new X-Men.
In their eyes.
Do you think that she ends up destroying the world or something?
I think they end up killing her. I think it's going to be a very safe ending. I feel like we totally have seen this movie. I mean, what's his name? The guy
Gray has been around. Like that was X3, I think, right?
X3 has the Dark Phoenix, has a very botched Dark Phoenix storyline.
She becomes a bird.
And this one, it's the same thing. The only reason I think it's very much the same is because like they're not doing anything differently other than the cast. It feels like when you watch the movie, it feels very familiar.
Yeah.
And
interesting that it's not called. It has all the X-Men in it, but it's not called X-Men something.
Phoenix, yeah.
Like X-Men isn't really
Dark Phoenix, and then in some territories they are calling it, I think, X-Men Dark Phoenix because they're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like,
no one would know it's an X-Men movie without.
Yeah. It's I don't know. It's insane because again, like the X-Men franchise at one point, I guess it was that along with Blade a little bit like I think we've said this before too. Blade was a little bit lesser known at the time, but X-Men basically kicked off the giant comic book boom, like in the 2000s, like the original X-Men.
Yeah.
And then the movies started getting bigger and grander. Then they got a little crappier. Then they got better again when other directors signed on, like Matthew Vaughn.
Yeah, I gotta say, probably peak X-Men. Well, because Days of Future Past was really pretty good.
Probably peak X-Men,
and then
I think Logan. Was the another peak.
It's weird because there aren't that many standalone X-Men movies. They were always ensemble,
right?
Pieces,
yeah.
Because Wolverine was really the biggest one to kind of hold its own at the box office. And Logan was really, really good. And I don't know why they didn't. There were always talks about like a Storm spinoff or a lot of more focused, smaller movies, and I don't know. Like I don't know if those would have worked. Yeah, they never. Yeah, it never happened. But it's kind of crazy to think that's something that might have been okay because it is the reverse MCU. The MCU standalone. They're all together, and in X-Men they're always together. And then when they tried standalones, it was really just Wolverine. I feel like
right. Yeah, and then
sometimes it didn't work. The first one, Origins Wolverine didn't work out. Maybe that's why they stopped doing stop focusing on him. It's crazy.
Other stuff, yeah.
It's crazy that Logan got made actually, but
yeah, it's insane because I think that the return on all those movies, maybe not so much Logan, because Logan I think is in a different category because it's rated R, so the returns are probably more than they thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and they knew it was going to be a low, and I'm sure it didn't cost as much.
Right, yeah, but like the one before that, the Wolverine, I guess the one where he's in Japan, I think did less than the last movie did, obviously. The X-Men's they have a lot of hit and miss. It's a hit and miss franchise. I think more misses than hits if you kind of think about it. I mean,
the longer they kept going.
Yeah, X-Men 1 and 2. It's because like they're repetitive. Like the storyline almost always turns into a Professor X versus Magneto thing. And I guess that would have been cool if you had just ended that in the first 3 movies. Hell, even the first 4. Like I think like even that First Class is probably like the best. One of the best ones made there. I think I still have a soft spot for Days of Future Past because of how complex
it was. Like
a
soft reboot, kind of. Right?
And the Matthew Vaughn thought he was going to be handed the keys to this because he eventually did speak right now. I think recently, like about a week ago, saying that he had ideas for a younger Wolverine, which is he had Tom Hardy in mind.
That's crazy to even think about recasting Wolverine, which is something that the Marvel Studios has to do now. But it's because he's so iconic as. It's funny, I forgot his name.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Sorry, yeah. I was going to say, how iconic is this guy? I can't remember. But yeah, it's Hugh Jackman. That's the role he's played now for almost 2 decades. So it's
he's kind of like
crazy.
I compared him as like the Christopher Reeve of like his franchise is Christopher Reeve because Superman. Christopher Reeve played Superman for like about a decade or so.
Forever, yeah,
for like a long time. He played him in the original franchise and all the way across. And the same thing goes for like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Like he kind of just became that character. It was very hard to separate that image or the character from the actor. And I feel like it's still going to be kind of jarring whenever you see the next one. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the thing with Johnny Depp and Captain Jack Sparrow. It's like who they are, and it's kind of going to be tough to recast someone in that role. But it's also partially they went with Hugh Jackman because he was going to be a central figure in that world.
Right.
So if the MCU, they don't plan on making, like if he's just going to be another superhero, not the central character, then they may find it easier to replace him because he's not necessarily going to be, the focus of this new thing. But he was the focus from the first X-Men. He was the focus. You were seeing, you were learning about the X-Men through his eyes, through his character's eyes.
He was the audience stand-in.
So it's kind of crazy. But yeah, so excited. We may talk about Dark Phoenix because it is the end of a big long
era. Yeah, and it's almost like we have to pay our respects for it. I think people are soured. I think everyone, maybe some people on this podcast are soured by X-Men Apocalypse, so they kind of don't, it was kind of starting to fizzle at that point.
Yeah.
And then it's also directed by Simon Kinberg, who directed reshoots on Fantastic Four. So I don't know. It's his first movie.
Yeah.
It's his first ever movie.
It's going to be interesting to see, because it's a long movie, but to see everything that happens in it, because it's really, really long.
Right.
And so, yeah, it'll be crazy to watch the whole movie and kind of glean what we can of what it is, like if it's a finale or not.
Right, yeah. I feel like we're going to talk about it. I don't know if it's going to be immediate, but we're definitely going to have an episode on it. I can totally see that happening.
June 14th, the week after that, middle of June, Men in Black International comes out.
Oh, yeah. I'm actually excited for that. Actually, that might be some priority that I want. I might make that a priority, in other words.
It's that good team up that worked in Thor Ragnarok between Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth, and now it's just in a different world that is a little bit more... I don't know, real. Men in Black was always good. I mean, Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones together, that's a good combination for comedy.
It's like 90s high concept.
Oh, yeah. So this is going to be, and I feel like this is produced, the whole Men in Black thing is, Spielberg is one of the people behind Men in Black.
There's an Amblin
joint.
Movie. Yeah, joint production between Amblin and I don't know what the fuck, Columbia.
So I think it's going to be really, I feel like it could be the surprise hit movie of the summer. Like there's always movies that come out and where they are thinking like, oh, it's going to be here, but I think it's going to be pretty good and popular for...
Hopefully. I mean, everybody hopes so. I didn't like Men in Black 3, but apparently everyone loves that movie. So like,
I liked it.
I don't know, whatever.
It was a little bit of like a love letter to Men in Black in general because of how long it took to make it.
I guess so, yeah.
But
it was
also,
just like, it felt like it was self-wankery, so whatever. But I'm excited. I actually just forgot about it until you listed it right now, so I'm excited for Men in Black International. I thought it looked cool. I think I had spoken to some people where they were like, they didn't like the fact that it was being rebooted. That being said, it looks like a spin-off more so than it is like a reboot.
Yeah.
Because it's just set in a different country.
I wouldn't be surprised if Will Smith or Tommy Lee Jones have a cameo
makes
or
some sort of cameo, possibly.
Yeah, because it's a fun world, and I think people forget that about Men in Black because sometimes they're really dark, and they end up being superhero movies because there's like a giant CGI thing at the end, or like something like that.
They're pretty self-aware too. It doesn't take itself seriously at all.
It's super silly, but I'm glad that
they
this
usually
movie
have like comedians playing aliens and stuff like that. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be really fun. June 21st, the week after, there are 2 sequels coming out that are a sequel, and I don't know. We'll talk about the second one. The first one we're going to talk about is Toy Story 4. It's going to be big. I hear it's super emotional.
Are we gonna have an episode on Toy Story 4?
We normally don't do animated stuff, so yeah. It'll be cool.
I don't know why we don't. It's just I don't think it's just we've never just we don't have anything against animation.
Oh no,
but like
Pixar has been the best storytellers period for the last decade, just like in terms of story and writing.
Right.
So I don't know why we don't.
I think y'all did a Incredibles 2 Patreon.
Oh, that's
podcast.
true. Yeah. So, but yeah, Toy Story 4. Kind of surprised. Were you surprised that they were even making another Toy Story?
Definitely. I think I rolled so hard. It was like I probably needed to recover for like an hour.
You were like, is this just a money grab thing, or
it's only because I felt the third one really ended up perfectly. Like it was such a perfect ending.
It is so good.
It's an emotional one. It's like it's a hats off. Like I didn't get why they were making a new one. Even after watching these trailers, I still don't. Yeah. But I'm hoping the movie's good.
There's something enticing about this existential thing that they're addressing, which is what is a toy with that spoon character.
Oh yeah, it's got some dark themes. Actually,
and I'm scared because I'm like, what if kids are like, are we gods or something?
Because then it goes into that, which is like, again, that's an interesting new direction where you're going in.
Watching these Toy Story movies is something I turn off is the rules of the world. I'm like, oh, they're just toys, but I don't really think too deeply into what constitutes a toy.
Yeah, exactly. So it is kind of it's interesting. I mean,
it might be darker than any other Toy Story movie.
I think it might be. Apparently people are saying like the ending is so emotional, like Infinity War emotional, and so it's just like, what the hell, like people are just gonna get snapped. Like it's so crazy.
Buzz Lightyear's gonna die. Like someone's gonna
die or someone's gonna leave or something. Me and Andrew were kind of thinking that like maybe Bo Peep is the antagonist in this movie.
That's true, because they reintroduce her.
And what if she tries to I don't know, what if she's the antagonist and it just has even just saying that, you're like, what? Like, why? Like, goddamn. Like, why would the writers write themselves like a story like this?
It's kind of weird, and I know it's kind of cynical to think about, but we know that Toy Story 4 not only is going to make money at the box office, but the toys that are going to be out now and the TV show spin-offs that they always do.
Yeah, around Halloween
like the
or
Christmas,
something.
Yeah. And then of course Toy Story Land. Like this is such a big boon. This is the reason why Disney bought Pixar. is for stuff like this to keep on going and going. And the only thing I will say this about Pixar is they do make some of the best sequels, and they normally don't.
They normally don't. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they were only forced to do Toy Story 2 because they thought that they couldn't be profitable without that.
Yeah, right.
So,
I think it was originally the idea was to do a direct-to-video sequel.
Yeah, it wasn't going to be a huge thing, but I don't know.
They just like made it. Yeah,
and it's going to be big because obviously we don't want to go too far into this, but John Lasseter is gone from Pixar. He was accused of sexual harassment, but this is one of the last, like, after these movies, he's not going to be a part of it. And the president of Pixar is also leaving, so this is like a new generation of Pixar.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Pixar peeps.
Yeah. And then the other thing that is kind of a discussion, because I don't think it's really a sequel, but that same night, the counter programming for the child movie of Toy Story 4, the family-friendly movie, is Child's Play is coming out that same day.
It's not a sequel. I guess it's a
I guess
remake.
It's like a remake.
A remake. I guess this is like not reboot. I guess reboot and remake kind of feel the same thing.
Yeah. Are you interested in it at all? Because it is a high tech kind of Child's Play, and I don't know if it's a comment on how we use the cloud now or something, but
I am not interested in the concept at all. I do want to see. I mean, I love Aubrey Plaza, so like I kind of want to see what she.
Oh, she's fun. Yeah,
she's in the. I wonder why she's in the movie.
She's the mom, I think.
Yeah, she's in the mom. Yeah, but like I just want to see what she brings to that movie, and I think it might be enjoyable because of her. I've never been a fan of the Child's Play concept. I've seen I don't think I've ever actually like fully seen, or maybe if I did, it was like I was a kid because I remember images from the original one, and I remember sequences, but and I do like it. I always thought it was like kind of like a one note thing though. Like even the fact that they made 2 other official sequels before endless ones, like endless direct to DVD ones, that are still going on to this day, was kind of weird to me. Like it was kind of like. It played itself out, I feel like, with the original concept, and then that's it.
Chucky has such a big fan base, which is insane. Yeah. Like, people love, and I think they do kind of project, or they kind of like endear the original Child's Play. So they'll keep watching like The Bride of Chucky and how crazy it is.
Yeah, and then there's like a Chucky series coming out.
Oh,
like
TV show, right?
Yeah, it's a TV show.
Which is different.
It's really funny because this is the first time. I don't know if it's the first time. This probably happens all the time. I think DC does this a lot, which is like there's a previous franchise happening. And then they just rebooted the same thing. So it's like 2 series going at the same time.
Well, this movie is a redesigned Chucky. He looks totally different. I feel like he's not a doll, really. He's more of this, I think he's just connected. He's like a virus that got into a computer type situation. But yeah, the first Child's Play, if you watch it, you kind of have to be in the mindset that this is an 80s movie because it is set in the same world as every 80s movie, which is like it's a crime-ridden city because it corresponded with the crime wave that was happening in the 80s. Like it has hobos.
They show alleyways full of newspapers and shit
newspapers.
Like that.
Yeah. There are hobos that are trying to rape people. Like it's crazy. Like it's set in that world, and it's fun because that's the world that Chucky was born from. And so it's fun when these movies continue, and obviously the world has changed, but Chucky is still
the same thing
in that like grimy criminal world. But yeah, I mean, this movie looks like it's going to revolve around these sequences with technology. Like I get that I've only seen the trailer, but it seems like, hey, Alexa, turn on the blender or something like that.
It seems like you only get that from the trailer, which is really funny because they're not showing a whole lot of Chucky around.
Oh no! Like, is he doing it, or is it just
is he just going to stand there and stand there and then the computer is just going to come to life and hit you or something? Like,
because then it's the computer. Yeah. It is this weird Final Destination kind of vibe to it too, which is cool.
Which is, I guess, okay, but the high concept of the original Chucky was like a serial killer spirit in a doll.
It was voodoo. It was street voodoo,
and it was crazy. Again, that's very much of its time, and it's just I think it hits it doing like a little I don't know, like a computer virus that infects a fucking a doll. It's weird, really weird. It's a
totally different movie.
Yeah, it's totally different.
Yeah, it's not Chucky with a knife, like trying to stab you.
No, it's not at all. Yeah.
He's controlling a self-driving car or something.
Yeah, exactly. And he will, I don't know, like
high concept,
a digital gun that just shoots people or something. I don't know.
It'll be interesting. I feel like the best thing about the original Child's Play, because I just rewatched it. I think I told you because it's on Amazon Prime. Was the fact that it is a cool drama of people. It was kind of like the Sixth Sense thing. No one's believing the kid. They're like, "Hey, Chucky did it," and everyone's like, "No, Chucky's a doll." And that was really cool. And then, of course, just being the single mom, like is a really interesting thing because you can see the stress start to pile on her and it becomes just a violent movie at a certain point. But yeah, another movie coming out 4 days after this is also doll related.
Really?
Yeah, Annabelle comes out on the Wednesday after this Friday.
Comes home, comes out.
I know. Annabelle comes home. I will give this movie a chance only because Annabelle Creation was pretty good.
I don't want to give this movie. I mean, I'm going to watch it. If you want to really watch it, I'm totally down for it. That being said, the trailers do not look appealing at all. I mean, I said that about Annabelle Creation, so like I can't really, who am I to speak? So.
Here, the Conjuring verse has consistently made money. I will not say that they've all been great because The Nun I was not on board with.
The Nun.
And the La Llorona I'm not even going to watch because I don't. I have some qualms about them just taking a Mexican folktale and
throwing it in the middle of white suburbia.
Yeah,
I don't know. Is it or no?
It's set in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not that bad.
All white writers. The main character is not Hispanic, so there's a lot of reasons why I won't watch La Llorona. But I will say this: all of these movies have made a shit ton of money. I think I was telling you that like The Nun made more money than Us did, which is just insane. But it's a global phenomenon. James Wan is building this Conjuring verse and. The Annabelle series of films, I dig, and I think they're cool. And it's like a dual horror movie because not only do you get the doll and all the subtle things that the doll does, like turn its head, things like that.
Yeah.
But you also get a full-on demon in most of these movies. So I think it's going to be a really cool thing. I mean, I don't know. I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, you never know.
And
It's not David S. Sandberg though.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's different. But yeah, so Annabelle will come out in July. So now we're in the first week of July. I mean, probably one of the biggest, highest grossing movies that summer. I wouldn't be surprised if it made $1 billion. Spider-Man: Far From Home. Far From Home.
What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say Homecoming, but I was like, they reference home in both these titles.
Spider-Man Home.
Home button.
Far From Homecoming.
But it is going to be, I think, it's going to get a lot of runoff. I don't say runoff pee, but yeah, it's going to get a lot of...
well, how did that come into your...
I don't know. It's going to get a lot of audience just because it's the movie right after Endgame and only a couple months after Endgame.
We might switch over to Countdown to Infinity to do that one.
Yeah, because it's going to also going to wrap up the Phase 3, right?
I feel like that's going to be... besides Endgame, that's going to be the movie that makes the most money this summer. Like
That's true.
I think Spider-Man hasn't had that in a while. Like this, a single Spider-Man movie, not so much Spider-Man as a whole. So I think like this is probably going to be his biggest movie since like maybe Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 1, or something, or maybe Spider-Man 3. I think I don't know which one made more money, but like it's going to be one of those era because of the fact that like it's right after Endgame. People are obviously itching to see more Marvel stuff, and this is going to be the movie to be.
I'm excited because the same director. Right,
John Watts,
of Homecoming, which is cool because you get that carryover of the focus of the kind of character Spider-Man is.
Yeah,
but you are going to get all this all of this Marvel studio stuff thrown in there. I mean, Shield's in it, right? Like we're talking about portals and stuff. So I think it's going to be humongous. And
I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Sony's just going to make a shit ton of money.
I'm scared for the effect it's going to have on Sony because it seems like Sony, since it's making money on all of its Spider-Man franchises, they may start to like pull Spider-Man. I think I've expressed this fear on the thing.
I don't think they will.
I mean, they totally can if they wanted to. But
it's just less. It's for me. It's just less work for them to just give the money and make Marvel Studios do the whole thing, and they just get a check. Because the fear for them is like, well, if we get rid of all the Marvel Studios people, we've got to get our own people, to use it. And is that too much work for them? And then what if they get it wrong?
Well, I'm just saying, but this has to be like building confidence for them. Like, it may eventually get to a point where like, I think we got this. Like, I think we've learned from y'all, even though they didn't learn at all.
And they can Batman this up, which is like have multiple. Like they can technically, they have the right. Oh wait. I don't know if we gotta look into the contract, but I don't know if they have the right to make their own Spider-Man live action with someone else.
I don't know. I don't know if there was like something. But I think they can probably like try to pull or maybe add their other characters as influence, in that universe at one point. I'm sure there's like a time limit for it.
Yeah.
Like it's probably time sensitive.
It's
probably not there has to be some renegotiation in the future, like whenever the contract expires, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and you know what? Phil Lord and Chris Miller are angling because they get to make more Spider-Man stuff.
Yeah, more Spider-Verse stuff, yeah.
But who knows if they just, take Spider-Man and do
Either
something
way,
crazy.
I mean, it's kind of exciting to think about because, you either in a good way or in a bad way, like, oh, let's see how they fuck this up, or let's see how they don't. So,
it'll be really exciting. I hope that there's plenty, but it looks like there's plenty of Spider-Man in this movie to where it's not overpowered by all the
other stuff, like
MCU
Mysterio.
stuff. Yeah. July 19th, a couple weeks afterwards. This is on the line, but the Lion King live CGI action movie comes out. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I mean, it's going to make a shit ton of money too, right?
Like I assume so. Like everybody seems kind of excited for it. I had to stop there because I was like, I've actually haven't talked to a single person who's excited for it.
I saw them release the pictures, and we put this on Dolphin, the posters of all the things, and someone put, "This is the lion." They just wrote, because they gave them names of the characters. We were like, these are just lions.
They're just pictures of animals.
It's just like, I don't know if I'm into seeing photoreal animals singing and dancing. Because I was like, I got to see a colorful animation version of this whole thing.
Right, yeah. It's also, it's just very odd.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very, I think it was a cool idea when they announced it, but then when, now that it's starting to stick in your head, you're just kind of like,
Yeah.
Like, because if it's going to be like a straight up just remake, like the way, I don't know, like.
Shot for shot.
Yeah, and then, then what's the point? Like, because the photorealistic animals can't emote. So you're just going to be watching their faces while, something.
Yeah.
You're going to hear something emotional in their voice, but how are they going to, what?
It's I think, but I will say this: I think audiences will suspend their disbelief hardcore for a Disney live action movie. Aladdin wasn't supposed to be doing what it's doing right now, which is breaking the world. So I think I'll still bet on Lion King being one of the biggest things. Yeah, Jungle Book made almost $1 billion when it came out.
I enjoyed. I've never seen the animated Jungle Book, but I enjoyed the Jon Favreau version. It's again the photorealistic animals when they're singing and stuff, and then that one's kind of a weird experiment because that movie's not technically a musical, but then the most two famous songs, the two most famous songs of that movie for some reason make it in.
Yeah.
So it's a weird feel. So and this one it looks like it's going to be heavy on it looks like it. Might just be a shot-for-shot remake.
Yeah, you have Childish Gambino and Beyonce. Why would you get them if they're not gonna
sing. These songs? Yeah.
So I think it's going to be really big. I think people are going to bring their families to it, and I just don't know what the end game is for all of these Disney live-action stuff because you can't.
You're just updating them, I guess.
Yeah.
They just announced. Didn't they just announce the Snow White a couple of days ago?
They're doing. Mulan's already shooting, right? Or almost done shooting. So I feel like I just don't know if another 10 years they're going to do Lion King again or something. I don't know what the next stage is.
That's true because it does feel. I mean, has been for us. I think it's because we lived through that era, but it does feel very recent for us still. 95. Even though when you actually count it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
When you actually do the math, but I don't know. It's very odd because Lion King was in 95. Aladdin was in 91 or something.
Yeah, these are old, not that old, but they're they're
fairly recent.
Yeah,
I was alive for them, the first incarnations for these.
You know what's weird though is because for Disney, what helps is those movies basically penetrated to be part of pop culture through the kids and through the youth, and so now we think of whimsical, songs and stuff. That's the Disney brand, right? Like them doing that, and they're able to go back 30 years and remake them to be live action. The most successful parts of Disney right now, at least of the last 10 years, have been Pixar movies. I think Frozen definitely broke the thing because I'm trying to think what's going to happen 30 years from now? Are they just going to be well, let's make Frozen live action, or let's do a photoreal, Wreck-It Ralph or something? Because it is kind of just this cyclical formula they have for these live actions. It's weird.
Yeah, it is pretty weird,
but it works. I mean, I'm gonna fucking watch Lion King.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the way book adaptations are. It doesn't change what the fuck came before it. You can still choose to like the original more. It doesn't dilute it. I think a lot of people have that. They're just I guess it gets them mad at the end of the day that that's happening. But it really doesn't change the original stuff.
And maybe it's because we just want to relive watching Lion King. I mean, just straight up. Because we've seen or be a part of something new, but we really want to just see Lion King again on the big screen.
Yeah, I think that's it's a studio mentality. It's like
Yeah.
they want something very new, but they also want to be reminded of good shit in their past.
And Disney's like, well, guess what we have? A catalog of every good kids movie.
Start remaking this, start making that, and then because you're right. There's a Little Mermaid coming out, and there's Snow White.
Alan Horn's the president of live action movies at Disney, and they took a lot of big risks early on with Pirates of the Caribbean, and that played out. But then they took a lot of risks with movies that didn't, like Lone Ranger and
John Carter.
John Carter. And so now that this is all working for them, I don't know. And they just bought Fox, but that could be its own separate thing. I don't know if actual Disney Studios is going to do anything original in a very long time.
No way, yeah.
Like they fund I think they funded part of Hidden Figures or something. Like they fund little indie things, but like I don't know.
But there isn't like well, no, there's I think they're still keeping that. There's like a Chris Pratt and Tom Holland movie that apparently was announced, Onward or something like that.
And they do a lot of like sports movies, like like that feel good sports movies.
Yeah,
too.
McFarlane USA or something like that.
So I don't know, but I mean they're never going to make as much money as Lion King.
Oh, definitely not.
In August now, the last month, Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw is coming out.
I am so down for that. You better be too. Well, is pretty cool.
We just talked about the John Wick we just talked about John Wick recently, and the co-director of the first John Wick is making this one.
This one, yeah.
So you gotta think it's going to be pretty good when it comes to the stunts.
I mean, the trailer alone looks like incredibly ridiculous. Obviously, it's not. But it looks like a whole lot of fun. All it looks like it's just one-liners between Statham and The Rock, and I think it's going to be a blast. I think I might like it better than the Fast and Furious entries that I've seen because there's something about that franchise that I guess it's because I haven't seen the majority of it. Like I've only seen the ones we've done for this episode and then the first one, or for these episodes and then the first one. So I don't have a whole lot of attachment to it. Because I thought it was like the first one was a mediocre. To me, it was like kind of like a mediocre race movie. But like that Hobbs character in the stuff that I have seen, like these I think in one of them he pushes like a torpedo with his hand.
These are superheroes now.
Yeah,
these are superheroes and a supervillain.
Yeah, it's like they're super spies that like, and because they're like they're them. Like there's some self-awareness there. Like because The Rock is The Rock. Like
I'm Jason Statham.
Yeah, he can grab a guy like and pull a helicopter from the looks of the trailer and stuff like that. It's just it's dumb fun in the way that like Godzilla was sort of. So like I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and Idris Elba is in it. I think as a superhuman.
Idris Elba, yeah, and he looks like
villain.
he's having the time of his life. Like
this is a really interesting experiment for Fast and Furious because there is some cast friction between the original Fast and Furious cast and the newer members of the cast.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh.
And because the newer members are being credited for the
revival.
The revival, honestly, the renewed success and the billions of dollars. So if this movie does well, it really leads Fast and Furious, the franchise. And I think there's one dude who made or created this whole thing. And he still gets like EP credit on everything. But it's going to lead him...
Rob Cohen or something like that?
Yeah, it's going to mean that these spinoffs can happen. Like it's not just a Fast and Furious 2 Tokyo Drift kind of thing, but we can have complete movies based on, just people who are in this movie for 1 second for like a couple minutes, which is insane to think about. I mean, I will say this though, that I feel like there's some oversaturation with like big, because now that John Wick is now getting wider releases, like there's a lot of really big, heavy action movies. I don't know if it's going to be heavily saturated. The thing that Fast and Furious has over every other action movie that comes out, like the Need for Speed thing that came out last year, I think, is just the name recognition of Fast and Furious. I mean, this movie made so much money in China and around the world that it is like a brand now.
It's so crazy. I don't know.
This has Fast and Furious in the title.
Yeah, exactly.
Fast and Furious presents
Hobbs and Shaw, yeah.
Kind of crazy. Okay, so in the middle of August, I don't know. There's two movies I'm excited for. I don't know if they're sequels or adaptions. Dora and the Lost City of Gold and Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I don't know what those are. Remakes or
I guess they're adaptations. And Dora is both, I guess, a sequel to the show, apparently, and adaptation, a live-action adaptation.
Michael Bay helped make this movie.
Yeah, Michael Bay helped produce this movie with Platinum Dunes. That's his company.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I mean, I don't know. It looks like a Tomb Raider type. Movie.
It's like a. Yeah, it looks like Dora the Explorer, like in a very Indiana Jones Tomb Raider-esque type of type of scenario.
It's crazy because Dora the show is made to teach kids Spanish.
Yeah,
and that's what it was, like an educational show.
It's an educational show. Like there are scenes where she's talking and she waits for like an audience reaction.
Yeah,
she turns to the camera,
like Blue's Clues or something.
Yeah, and if they don't do that in this movie, I'm going to be pissed.
The whole movie is
just like, what do y'all think? I think so too.
It's kind of crazy to think that this is going to be marketed as a action movie, I feel. And then it's just insane how many Hispanic actors are in it. Benicio del Toro is fucking Swiper the Fox. Like, this movie is going to be...
It's got like
insane.
Michael Pena. Eva Longoria is the mom.
It's going to be heavily geared towards kids, I feel. But who knows? I mean, I think they just want this to be a really big family movie. And then Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, I'm excited for. It's an anthology, if I'm not... Like, what is this movie going to be?
So that movie is an adaptation of the anthology book, The Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which is an old children's book with horrifying art. Like I think that's what... the stories weren't as scary as they made them seem. They were very ominous. And I think but they're still like kid stories.
Yeah, they're pretty standard ghost stories.
They're pretty standard ghost stories. I think the artwork is what elevates the actual... Because the artwork is horrific.
And that's what drew Guillermo del Toro, who I think is producing all of this.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And I don't know how much you know about this. I wonder if it's like hard anthologies or if it is all connected in one story.
The way the movie is going, apparently according to del Toro, is that this movie is it's a one plot.
Ooh, cool.
And there's... I think they chose like 3 different stories, or 3 or 4 different stories that are most famous.
And there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, there's multiple books.
Yeah.
There's like I think they chose like the 3 most famous stories, and I off the top of my head I can't remember. I know one of them was the Big Toe.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the spider and the cheek and the zits. So they chose those 3, and then they made a plot around them, basically. And then so
I'm on board.
They made a plot around them. There's references to a giant world where more of those stories take place,
like a Cabin in the Woods type.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like references to that, but apparently it follows like and it follows it in a weird like kind of like these stories are happening to people type of thing, almost like in a Goosebumps-esque type of way.
Okay.
But it's all like, it's not an anthology movie.
Okay, that's
cool. It all follows like one plot.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, oh man, anthologies are okay. Like VHS definitely broke the mold, but for wide release, anthologies normally don't
do anything because they're just like,
yeah.
It's just, I mean, that's all it is. It's just anthologies are cool. They're cool because of the showcase. Like it's kind of like a showcase. Like the director,
ABC's of Death is another one, right?
Yeah, and the director steps up and does like a little short, and it shows you what he can do, like visually, and how it's scary and stuff like that. One guy will be really different than the other. There's I think there's a VHS one where Adam Wingard actually does a segment, and then
it's like the Blair Witch people. Like it's crazy
exactly.
who makes these movies.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool. I like anthology movies. That being, yeah, you're right though. They don't have a wide mass appeal.
I will say more of them are being made now, and they're actually finding some success, which is cool to think about. Because I think even 10 years ago, if you did an anthology, people wouldn't even fund it. People would be like, no. But now it's getting funded, and it's on Netflix or something. So it's pretty cool. All right, so the week after that, Angry Birds 2. I don't know if you want to talk about it. I mean,
is that for real? Angry Birds 2?
It's a sequel, baby. I watched the first movie. It was so bad. Oh, I mean, I didn't like it. But Angry Birds is also a really big known
app.
So, people are going to watch it. The week after that, 47 Meters Down, Uncaged. The sequel.
There's a sequel to 47 Meters Down? Who's in it? Is it Mandy Moore again?
I don't know. Mandy Moore is currently climbing Mount Everest. I don't know if you know this. She's like a week away from the summit, and it's scary.
Yeah, I remember. I read that very weird headline because this is like Mandy Moore reaches base camp while others die or something. Like that's kind of weird.
So there's a trailer. I haven't even seen this trailer, but okay, no, she's not in the movie.
Okay,
it's a whole different cast. But the trailer photos look insane because it looks like a lot of this takes place at night, which is an interesting concept.
I wonder how they're going to do that.
Yeah, it just shows one shark lit up at night, and it's kind of cool.
The water is very, very dark at night, so I wonder how the fuck...
Yeah, you can't see anything, but it's a pretty cool, scary, contained thing, so I get it. And that's all this movie is. It's like, it is pretty much filmed in real time. 47 meters, where it's... Okay, if you're in the water for 2 hours with a shark, this is the 2 hours. It's not like cut to this. You're just...
Right, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's some flashbacks or something of these people's... Because that's the way The Shallows was. You remember that movie with Blake Lively?
Yeah.
There was it cuts between her remembering something
I
or
think
something like that.
These two movies came out at the same time, to be honest with you. Like,
No, I
close
think
to the same
The
time.
Shallows, was probably a couple of years before, maybe like a year or two before 47 Meters
47,
Down.
but 47 Meters Down surprisingly made quite a bit of money, but it didn't cost that much
That
to,
guy,
to
I
make.
think that guy got the Resident Evil reboot because of it, which is
Ooh.
kind of crazy.
The week after that, the last week of August, Angel Has Fallen, which I think you were telling me is part of... I didn't even know this was part of the...
Olympus Has Fallen.
The Fallen you've fallen for.
Olympus Has Fallen is the first one, and then London Has Fallen is the second one, and then I guess Angel Has Fallen is this one, the third one.
Because I don't know if you remember when the first one came out, Olympus Has Fallen, White House Down came out a month.
They were very, very, very similar.
Gerard Butler is this one, but the other one, it's...
Channing Tatum.
Yeah, so, and that one was more fun, I will say. I don't know if you... Did you see these movies?
I haven't seen it. I know that the White House Down one is a Roland Emmerich movie.
I watched both of them, and Channing Tatum at some point is on the fucking limousine with a machine gun on top of it, shooting out at a bunch. Like, it's an action movie.
You just sold me on that. Like, that's going to be awesome.
And these
Just
Fallen ones are
from
like
that imagery.
somewhat serious. Like, you know, he's got a daughter. Like, they're very dramatic.
It looks like it. I mean, I've never seen any of these, but I know that recently at the shop, people have been starting to buy, more London Has Fallen. They've been trying to ask for London Has Fallen because I guess maybe that trailer got around.
Oh,
so.
but the freaking scale is epic for this stuff, and it's just kind of like a cool. What would happen if someone took over Buckingham Palace? Like, it's like this is crazy.
And then like just that lone security service, Secret Service,
And it's always a flawed Secret Service member. Like, you know, there's something wrong. Like, I think the first one, he didn't make enough time for his kid because he was a Secret Service agent. And for some reason, the way out of that is to be a good Secret Service. The last movie we'll talk about is technically at the tail end of summer, September. And it may be a sequel that I'm actually really super excited about, but it's It Chapter 2 comes out the first week of September. What do you think about that movie? Damn.
We did a podcast on that first one.
I don't remember.
I feel like.
That's interesting. We got to look. I mean, I'm sure we did.
Yeah, I'm sure. Or maybe not. I mean,
no, but there's no way. There's no way we saw it and didn't talk about it because it's really good.
Yes, that first It movie. Well, a little bit. I still kind of stand by like it's a little overrated. I did love it. It was pretty. It was a very enjoyable Stephen King adaptation.
Yeah.
A little bit safer than I would have wanted it to be.
Like regular horror and without as many of the. It had a lot of Stephen King themes in it.
Yeah, Stephen King.
It's pretty dark.
It's a very dark story to begin with. I think it's because I read pieces of Cary Fukunaga's script. And I think Cary Fukunaga's script is unapologetically terrifying.
Oh, it's stylized. Probably it would have been way more stylized than this.
That's the thing is like when you read it, it doesn't read as a stylized one. I don't know how he was thinking of directing it because he's the guy who directed Beasts of No Nation, which is like a very realistic movie, like
True Detective, right? Like all True Detective.
But the thing is, like, his original script was, like, very dark, and I read a couple of pages of it, and it was just, like, and I made the mistake of reading it before going to watch the movie in theaters. So, I think whenever I first saw it, it struck me as, like, a very good episode of Stranger Things, I guess.
Yeah.
Even though, like, that's probably what influenced Stranger Things, obviously, because, like, it's an old book.
It's an old book, definitely.
Like from the early 80s. But I'm totally excited for the human part.
Oh yeah,
it too, because the grown up part. There you go.
Can you name names? Jessica Chastain.
Jessica Chastain is playing Bev.
Bill Hader, who is killing it with Barry, is in this movie.
He's in this movie as Richie, as Finn Wolfhard's character, and James McAvoy. Bill. There's a bunch of good people here.
The trailer, I feel, was really good because it gave us a whole sequence. It gave us a whole horror sequence for Chapter 2, and I am so excited to see. Because it's really cool. What's really cool about it is it's not. I mean, we know the clown is the monster, but everyone is a monster. Every adult in this town is a monster. Could be a monster or is a monster in their own way.
And then now it's kind of weird because when the kids, it kind of you didn't know if it was like. If it was just them being like kids or something like that, it's kind of like the Child's Play dilemma. Now that they're adults and they're coming back to this, it's going to be a very interesting dynamic.
I mean, their fears probably have changed since they were a kid.
Also, I heard that the book gets very incoherent there at the very end because like they go into some cosmic stuff where they're supposed to fight like the true form of Pennywise.
There are that's the whole thing with Dark Tower is it reveals that there are dimensions and it travels from
dimension to dimension,
which is a lot to think about.
It's a lot to think about in a horror movie that was set in like a little town.
Yeah,
like in a little quiet town. Because then you jump into like some cosmic sci-fi shit.
Yeah. That's why Dark Tower was supposed to do much better. It was supposed to be like the creation of the MCU kind of thing.
The Kingiverse.
Yeah.
The Kingiverse. And it didn't do that.
Interesting, yeah. There's another show on Hulu that's doing it better. I forgot what it's
Castle
called.
Rock.
Yeah,
like
I hear it's...
Because there are references to other Stephen King stories like The Overlook Hotel and something in Derry. They actually do say something.
Yeah, and the guy who plays it is in it.
Yeah, the guy who plays the Pennywise the Clown is actually a character in
the show.
Unrelated character, but he's in that show.
But
I'm excited because like I really do want to see that weird sci-fi stuff. See if they adapt that into this movie.
Yeah,
because that's kind of crazy.
It is going to be really big, and I think it's going to translate really well. Not only because it has, I think we talked about how Disney goes back to the well with a lot of the live action stuff, but I remember talking about it in school, just the TV movie.
Oh, the TV movie, with Tim Curry.
Oh, yeah, and telling my friends, I saw It the Clown outside. Totally lying, but everyone would be like, oh, shit.
Everyone would be looking over their shoulder the entire fucking time. Yeah.
Andy Muschietti, who's making this movie, made Mama, and he's currently dating Amber Heard, which is interesting because he's a director. What?
I mean, Aronofsky dated Lawrence for the entire time that they were making Mother, and then they broke up afterwards because apparently Lawrence said that he's all about that movie, all about it.
Well, if you watch Mother, it's basically a reason to break up with him.
Oh, definitely, and I think
telling you break up with me.
I think it's I think she kind of noticed that at the very end or something because she did say that it was the movie that got in the way of her relationship. He just wouldn't let it go even after shooting and stuff.
Which is funny because that's what the movie's about, kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like you didn't. Did you read the script?
I know.
What's going on?
What were you expecting? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyways, but those are the movies we're excited for, which is a lot. I think we talked about, like a dozen movies.
That is a lot. I don't know about a dozen, but
it's a lot of sequels too. Sequels, reboots, remakes, whatever you're calling them.
Yeah, and I think I'm excited actually to watch some of these.
Yeah.
Actually, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun talking about them, and I think we're going to try to get as much of that content on our podcast as possible.
I think there's going to be plenty of surprise hits, plenty of maybe surprise misses, maybe. It's kind of weird because if I look at this list, I would say about 40% of these movies, including original films, are sequels, reboots, or remakes. And I don't know what the percentage was 10 or 20 years ago, but this is a lot. This is every week there's a sequel, a remake, or a reboot coming out.
It's so crazy because people are going to get used to it, and I think it's not going to die. That's the thing. I think genres have a bubble that's going to burst eventually, but I don't think these franchises are going to die. I think everything's going to keep getting franchised. So it's only going to get worse from here.
Yeah, that's true. And it's kind of if they asked general people, what would get you out of your butt to go to the movie theaters? They'll probably all name a franchise now.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, or be like, another Marvel movie or another Star Wars movie.
Right, yeah.
And it's kind of interesting but I feel like it doesn't mean that there's the death of original content. It just means they're all going to go to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon.
You got to search a little bit harder for original stuff, and you just got to. I guess you got to want to watch it because it's when it's convenience that that the big studios release these movies in theaters because that's all that's playing. There's an Avengers movie, there's a Shazam or something, which is a sequel, obviously, to something else, or not an actual sequel, but you know what I mean. It's a continuation of a franchise that's already established. So it's convenient for these people to go and watch these movies because that's all there is. That's all that the mainstream people that are putting out. If you really do want to watch something like Booksmart or something, you have to actually kind of go and look for it.
Yeah, and it's all about now watching it the first week or something, so that you can talk about it and tweet about it and have conversations, because after that you won't be able to. These movies don't stay on the top for months and months and months because the next thing's already out. So it's kind of interesting. But I mean, I think what's really fun is I think now most audiences now have a bigger bandwidth for content or things that they like. So that's maybe why we have so many sequels, like the Conjuring verse, for example. I'm following the Conjuring verse, and I want to see what happens to the Warrens and how this is connected to everything. And it's weird. It's the same with binging all these shows. We're able to talk about Godzilla, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Conjuring, and all that stuff in one conversation with someone because we just have a bigger bandwidth for content, which is crazy.
Right, yeah.
Like, it's not like we're only going to talk about the one thing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of wild. You guys are spoiled.
Yeah, definitely.
Fuck. Anyways, we'll see you.
We had something to do with that, possibly.
I know.
Yeah, exactly. We just keep covering them. So
I know. Yeah. They have to keep doing it for us, the podcast.
I think that they've heard us loud and clear because, like, even when we started this thing, it was kind of no, there was no shortage of this ever. Never mind.
No.
I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, because we can mind. I mean, the last couple of episodes were the ones before the Godzilla ones were kind of like there was like Return of Swamp Thing at one point.
Older,
yeah. So like there's no shortage of sequels out there anyway. So
I think early on I talked about genre making sequels, but I feel like genre films were so like they had stories that could be sequels. Like if it's a killer, just keep doing it.
Yeah, like killer kills more people.
Yeah, and so I feel like there was that thing for like sci-fi and horror movies all the time. Like that it was always around, but it was never this. The part 2 would be like VOD movie. The part 2 would be almost fanfic.
Yeah.
So and now that it's like part 2 is part of this. Like we wanted this to be a part of the story.
And it's always like bigger and grander for some reason. Yeah.
Like it's a different take, I think, but I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah. I'm cool with it. So yeah.
Yeah. Me keep watching movies.
Mm-hmm. Keep watching.
Well, John, do you have anything to plug? We went for an hour. Pretty good,
really?
huh?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
We didn't know that was going to happen.
Full transparency, we didn't watch a movie for this week because I'm going out of town.
We were waiting to, and I think we didn't. Time didn't line up. Really.
To be honest, when we pick a movie, we watch it, but then we also like want to
research it.
Like,
yeah. We don't want to just like watch it and then just like
it was cool
off the cuff. Yeah, exactly. we've done stuff like that in the past, no doubt. But no, we kind of want to take a better approach to at least so. Just in case we don't like the movie, but like the person who's listening likes the movie, we want to be at least respectful as possible with all the information that we. Yeah,
and get something out of it, and maybe maybe your idea of it is for a certain reason, or like maybe they did run out of time or money or something.
Yeah, exactly. So, so we didn't we watched a movie this week for that, and that's why we did this. And this was a good little. I found out some shit on this app. Like I forgot about Men in Black, and I guess it too.
As I was reading it, I was like, "Fuck, this summer is pretty packed."
It's pretty,
like,
damn. We thought. I mean. Maybe that's why Godzilla isn't doing well or something.
Yeah.
It's just oversaturation in general because Avengers is still in theaters.
That's the weird thing, I think. And Avengers is like still up there in terms of box office.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's not going to go away anytime soon. And that's going to be like in there for at least maybe 1 or 2 more months.
And I had assumed that Avengers Endgame was going to be a vacuum and just suck the energy out of the box office because people are just going to be like, well, shit, we're comparing ourselves to that movie. But there are plenty of movies that are coming out. Like John Wick Chapter 3 did well, like, and it's a really good movie.
And,
so
I think Pikachu came out and did well for what it did. Yeah, like for what it cost, I guess. Like
yeah, and so I'm like, well, maybe no. Like that's what I'm saying. We have bigger bandwidth for things. Like we can go watch like 4 movies in a month and get everything. It's not like we have to make the choice. We can only watch one, and that's it. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I don't have anything to plug other than the usual. Just all your Delphin Pod podcasts. Listen to those. Listen to all these Sticker Fridge podcasts, and take a look at their website as well. They got some really fun stuff. And that's about it, actually.
Yeah. Same thing here. Go to patreon.com/DelphinPod if you want to listen. I'll probably release this early on Patreon or something.
Yeah. You get bonus points here.
Bonus points. And then we have some fun games there, too.
Yeah, we got some fun, drunken games sometimes. And like some, oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
But, I hope you guys watch a couple of these movies and then let us know which ones you're excited for. Go to @DelphinPod. Tell us what you're excited for this summer, and we'll probably talk about, I'm going to say at least like 4 of these movies, probably.
I'm hoping to get to a lot of them.
Yeah, so we're gonna watch them, but it's just whether or not we.
Yeah, we actually take time to record them. We're gonna try to. How about that? Like we just if we do see them, like we're gonna try to.
We've already been doing good. I think we did John Wick Chapter 3 and Godzilla, and those are new movies.
Yeah, those are ones that are high priority. I was like super excited for Godzilla. Like whether or not, I mean, I don't know if I was like satisfied or not, but that was my movie all summer. I think I don't know what to look forward to now. I guess except for like maybe Star Wars or something.
Star Wars for sure, but before that, maybe it.
Well, I keep forgetting about it up until like I reread about it. So like I guess I'm excited for it.
You know what? That is kind of this thing that you have to think about is like which of these sequels are we anticipating and wanting to see, and which ones are we gonna see out of curiosity? Man in Black is like that for me. I'm like I'm curious about it. Like, I think that's interesting.
I think it's for me too. I'm kind of a little curious on it because of the cast. Like I think it'll it's a whole different dynamic. So I think it's awesome.
And we know it's a good story. Like they're not going to change the book, so we know it's going to be a good story.
Or they might. I mean, who knows? Because there are some like
changes in the other
in the books. It's odd because I was like, I have nothing. I'm getting excited now because of this podcast, but like before, like we started recording, I was like, I watch Godzilla, and that's it. I guess that was the movie.
Left?
A
shit ton of movies.
A lot, definitely.
For me, It Chapter 2 is probably the next big thing that I'm excited for. Even probably a little bit above Spider-Man. I don't know if I have this Marvel hangover or whatever. But
I don't know if I don't. It's a mixture of both for me. Like I do kind of have a Marvel hangover from just being very immersed in this in the Marvel movies for the past couple of months. Again, because we did that like last year too. Also, was never a real big like. I don't know what I'm trying to say here because I technically was like a big Spider-Man fan, but the Spider-Man Homecoming as a movie itself, like I think I rewatched that the other day. It's okay. I don't know if it's aging well for me anyway, but it's just I'm just kind of a little. I guess you're right. Maybe it is just the Marvel hangover because it's just I'm not as excited to it, but I'm gonna watch it. Like obviously, I think I'll be satisfied as fuck whenever I see it.
I think that's maybe why we're not super excited is because we have already assumed we're gonna watch it. Like it's already. Instinct for us, and probably for a lot of listeners to be like, "Oh, we're gonna watch that Marvel movie."
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
We don't have to be like scared or be like, "What are we gonna expect?" Like, we're just gonna watch it.
Yeah, because
anyways,
it's coming up. So,
exciting. Well, we'll see you at the movies.
Is that really your catchphrase?
No, I can't have it.
Oh damn!
I might release this on Countdown. I don't know.
You might.
Maybe
both. I just you should name it just like a very 18 syllable title. Countdown to Infinity presents Revenge of the Sequel production.
Just like Fast and Furious Hobbs
exactly.
presents, Because I mean we talk about Marvel stuff in this.
We do, sort of.
And
X-Men.
I'm trying